Welcome to another special podcast bonus episode of Mighty Morphin Ranger Danger.
Go, Ranger Danger! Go, Ranger Danger! Go, Ranger Danger! Matt and Michael's Ranger Danger!
Okay, today on the show, rather than watching an episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as we might normally do, we're going to be discussing Power Rangers Hexagon. Now, Power Rangers Hexagon, to explain it for those who don't know, was a planned Power Ranger season, an early rough plan for the season after Power Rangers Wild Force.
Yes.
Now,
which eventually became
Power Rangers Ninja Storm.
Right.
The reason Ninja Storm happened rather than Hexagon was that at the end of Power Rangers Wild Force, Saban ended up selling off the Power Rangers franchise to Disney. For almost a decade, I believe. They've got it back now, but for a while, Disney was in control of the franchise, and they chose to move filming to New Zealand. There was almost a new creative team, so the plans were scrapped. Now, Hexagon's a very interesting sort of unused concept because it ties back a lot into all of the seasons that preceded Power Rangers Wild Force and Power Rangers Wild Force as well. I guess, should we go through and just sort of discuss all the elements of it, and then we can...
Yeah, sure. We should mention we're in a car. We're driving back from Canberra. You would have heard our Canberra episodes. I hope you enjoyed them. Yeah, that's okay. Sarah's with us driving.
Hello.
You may have heard that, or you may not have.
So, I guess Power Rangers Hexagon was an idea to tie all of the previous Power Ranger seasons together. Into one sort of cohesive package for a number of reasons. One of them being that there are a lot of inconsistencies in previous series. And another one being that they did sort of want to put a bow on it and have it fresh so they could sort of not restart, I guess, but start a new series of seasons that didn't have a lot of lingering questions behind them.
Okay. So wrap up I guess it would have been like 10 years of the show.
That's right. Now, it's also worth noting that Power Rangers Wild Force featured the episode Forever Red, which was the 10-year anniversary episode, which saw the return of almost all of the previous Red Rangers. I think it was everyone except for Rocky.
Yes, and I do know they wanted him back, but he'd moved, and hadn't told anyone where he'd gone, and so they couldn't get a hold of him in time.
That's right. And there are a lot of small ideas planted in Forever Red that would have blossomed into Hexagon, had they have gotten the chance. It's very because it's such a broad group of concepts, it's hard to know where to start.
Okay, well, let's start with whose idea it was.
Okay, so it was the idea of... Now, is that Power Rangers producer Amit Balnik, I believe?
Are you familiar with him? Because I know some things about him that are probably worth discussing.
No, relate on me.
He's a long-time Power Rangers fan. Who eventually got onto kind of the show as... He was a producer for a while. He wrote episodes including Forever Red. Probably with the exception of his work on the show, the most important thing that he's kind of remembered for is a thing called Scorpion Rain.
Okay.
Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, I did do a bit of digging into this as well.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, basically, between Power Rangers Zeo and Power Rangers Turbo is Turbo Power Rangers movie, and that kind of fills in the gap. But it doesn't explain kind of everything that happens. There's a lot of questions about the transition between those two events.
Like exactly how the Power Rangers Zeo lost their powers, I believe.
There's no explanation for the loss of the Zeo powers at all.
Why Rita and Zed aren't there anymore. Because it looked like they sort of reclaimed power at the end of Zeo, but then they've left by the time Turbo happens.
So it's kind of a strange... I mean, really, and my understanding is a lot of the kind of questions of that were originally going to be discussed in the Turbo movie. And it would have had like a shot of them using their Zeo powers and losing them. But then because that was released theatrically, the decision was make it really stand alone and easier for kind of new people who'd never been to the franchise or who'd left a while ago. make it more kind of new fan friendly.
Absolutely.
And so the first thing to go is all the explanation of all the old stuff.
Yeah.
Because no one who's new cares about the old stuff.
Absolutely.
So the idea was that Scorpion Rain was a series of shorts commissioned by an Australian television station.
Yeah.
That they aired over like the course of a week or something like that, using a couple of like morphed actors so they could get stuntmen and dub them.
Yeah.
And like cheap model shots that explain kind of the defeat of Lord Zed on the moon.
Yeah.
And so there's some threads for, and this was in the old kind of internet message board days.
Yeah.
So
a lot harder to verify things.
Yeah. It was even harder for like Australian fans to be able to go, no, that never happened.
Yeah.
So there was lots of people kind of claiming they had copies, or that there were copies of like parts 3 and 5, but no one had copies of any of it.
Yeah.
And it was highly sought after when they thought it was real, because it addressed all these kind of burning questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't real. It was a hoax.
Yep.
Perpetrated by a number of people, but it lasted for many years, the hoax. And some of the questions in the Forever Red and Hexagon answered come from Scorpion Rain.
Right.
Like in Forever Red, Serpentera is unearthed on the moon.
Yeah.
Which is where it was left at the end, ostensibly, of Scorpion Rain.
Right. So basically, it was a hoax created by fans.
Yep.
But when some of the fans got to positions of power within Power Rangers, they were able to treat it as almost canon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it's never like explicitly referenced as, remember that time we fought Lord Zed on the moon.
Right. It's more
but it's like that could have been what happened in between those things.
Absolutely. Alright, so Hexagon itself, I guess we'll start off with the name.
Yep.
So Hexagon comes from the name of a building within this show.
Right.
Which would be basically like the Pentagon.
Right.
In America, but actually have 6 sides.
Right.
Rather than 5, hence Hexagon.
Yep.
With the 6 sides representing the number of Rangers that are usually on a Power Rangers team.
Okay, yep.
And
I like to think that the building would start with 5 sides. And then halfway through they'd put a new side on. Yeah.
And what Hexagon would be was basically a government organisation, or at least a publicly supported organisation.
Right.
Run by Tommy.
Right.
Tommy Oliver. And it would be an organisation that ran various Power Rangers teams from a public building that had like hundreds, if not thousands, of employees and public servants. And they would travel around the world from the Hexagon dealing with things.
Okay.
So it's basically a role reversal with the power dynamic, because usually it's a big invading alien force and a handful of people trying to fight that off. This time it'd be like a big corporation, almost, that's dealing with a handful of scattered threats.
Okay.
But the main conflict of the season would be that you have your 3 new Power Rangers that just joined Hexagon to be the main characters.
The new Rangers of whatever that series was.
That's right. And then there'll be 2 other Rangers, which would be like rebel Rangers living outside of the law, basically, who didn't agree with the idea of like a concentration of power.
Okay.
And
because that does kind of happen with Ninja Storm.
That's right. So in Ninja Storm, or the Sentai that's adapted from, there's 3 main characters. And then there's 2 rival Rangers, Dark Red and Dark Blue.
Right.
That they're not strictly enemies, like they don't have to kill each other, but they really don't agree. And from time to time, they'll join forces because they have to. But they're not on a team. Basically.
And so conveniently, you've got that footage already of them sometimes not getting along and reluctantly working together.
Exactly right. Now, the idea was that you'd have Tommy leading this team of 3 new Rangers.
Right.
And it's implied that the Hexagon actually deals with a number of other teams of Rangers that you don't really see.
Okay, but this is the ones that we're focusing on.
That's right. And then on the other side of the equation, with the outside of the Law Rangers, they'd actually be mentored by Jason.
Ooh, exciting.
But he wasn't really a an authority figure like Tommy is at Hexagon.
Right.
He's more of a just like he's been traveling around, he's seen the world, he's got this mindset, so he's willing to help these guys out.
Right.
And I guess the justification was that in Power Rangers Zero, when Jason returns, I believe it was Army who said that he doesn't really look like he'd just come back from a peace conference.
Right.
Because he's in a leather jacket and a bandana and glasses, and he's like walking across the desert.
Yeah.
He looks like someone who's been living outside of the law for a bit.
Right.
And that's somewhat supported in Forever Red when he sort of...
He shows up on a Harley.
Yeah. Looks a bit world weary. So yeah, he would be the counterpoint to Tommy, basically.
Yeah.
And then, as the season would progress, they deal with a lot of the threads that weren't tied up by previous seasons.
Okay, so like Scorpina,
for
who
example,
just disappears from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
That's right. So, for example, if the Japanese footage sealed with an organic monster,
Right.
then it would be one of Scorpina's minions. If it was a robotic minion, it'd be from Prince Casket.
Yeah, a remnant of the Machine Empire.
Of the Machine Empire, who was never explicitly dealt with at the end of Power Rangers Zero.
Yep. Now I have a question.
Yeah.
Is any of this at all does it just avoid the thing that happens at the end of Power Rangers in Space? Which I'm not going to name explicitly because you may not know, I guess.
Yeah, I guess that event that basically is supposed to wipe out all evil in the universe isn't really supported by any of the following seasons of Power Rangers.
Right,
because
there's more evil in the universe.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I guess the idea was that wasn't for like an all-reaching wave.
It affected the local parts, but okay, fair enough.
That's right. So I guess that would be the out, was that it didn't get everyone.
Yep.
Essentially. So yeah, there'd be a number of loose ends dealt with there, and we'd also see the return of many previous Rangers.
Okay.
Sometimes as Rangers, sometimes not. Like the pilot, I believe he's one of the Rangers from Lightspeed Rescue.
Right.
Would be a pilot who would transport the 3 Hexagon Rangers around in a helicopter, basically.
Okay. And I guess having done Forever Red, they knew that was possible.
Yeah. That
you could get all those actors back. Not necessarily everyone, but certainly a selection if you wanted to.
That's right. And I guess, there'd be a lot of things that they'd be looking to wrap up and also reference in regards to the history. Like, there are plans for the Hexagon Rangers to visit all of the various different places that exist in the Power Rangers universe, like Angel Grove, I think it's Mariner Bay from Lightspeed Rescue, Turtle Cove.
Would they go to the Lost Galaxy?
No, they would not go to the Lost Galaxy, I don't think.
Okay.
With the idea that they're trying to make the Power Rangers universe more cohesive.
Yeah.
Because before it, when the season set in like Mariner Bay, it was never explicitly mentioned that there was an Angel Grove.
Yep.
It's really making it,
with the exception of those one-off team-up episodes that we got.
Exactly. So trying to really tie it all together and make it more cohesive.
Yep. Make a single Power Rangers universe that's more explicitly connected.
There was a whole lot of different threads that they wanted to tie up as well that weren't just character related. Like there was a plan to reveal the Phantom Ranger's identity.
Oh, okay, to finally deal with that.
Yeah, because he was a character from Turbo and a bit of Power Rangers in Space.
Yep.
And there's a lot of speculation as to who that character was going to be. I believe at the time, when they were shooting Power Rangers in Space, they wanted to reveal in the final episode either that it was Billy, who was using technological powers, or that it was like the ghosts of fallen Rangers or something like that.
Like kind of a conglomeration of... Right, that would be... I mean, you'd have to kind of spin that. Yeah. But that could be cool as well.
Now, I'm not sure if that was still the plan for Hexagon.
Because that series ends with it never being explained who exactly the Phantom Ranger is.
That's right, because I think with Terra Venture in Space, it was a 2-part finale.
Yep.
It was originally intended to be 3 parts.
Okay.
But budgetary constraints meant that they had to wind that back a little bit.
Right.
And that was one of the reveals that was just cut.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Because it's not as important as dealing with the bad guys.
That's right.
And that's a good finale.
Yeah, it's
so good. That's so far away. Anyway.
So yeah, they were going to reveal the Phantom Ranger's identity.
Yep.
They were going to explain why Terra Venture from Lost Galaxy was that thing. Because it's not really consistent. Like in Power Rangers, in that time, humanity isn't like a spacefaring civilization.
Yep.
But Terra Venture comes from Earth.
Yes, it's a space satellite that's enormous and flies to
That's right.
galaxy.
So the idea was to explain why that was possible, and it was apparently going to be part of, well, it was basically a refurbished Dark Fortress.
Right, okay.
That humanity had taken and sort of turned into an experimental vessel.
Yep.
And apparently there's going to be some sort of conspiracy there.
Because I am actually just thinking, at the end of Power Rangers in Space, Astronomer's ship is, like, floating above Angel Grove.
Yeah.
There's no reason that they couldn't have taken that down and...
There was a plan for the Silver Guardians, who I believe are from I'm not sure about that.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, there's a plan for a Wild Force team-up that would see half the team on the side of the Hexagon team, the other half on the Rebels side. So I guess the whole idea was to make it a lot more cohesive.
Yep.
Now, towards the end of the season, if you've seen Power Rangers, you'll know that the 6th Ranger is a very powerful Green Ranger.
Yep.
Who has sort of gold parts on his costume.
Yep. I think I can see where that's going.
Yeah, of course, the natural decision there was that it would be Tommy.
Yep.
Returning as the most powerful Ranger ever.
Yep.
And the main characters that worked for Hexagon initially would eventually come around to this idea that there shouldn't be a concentration of power that could be manipulated or abused, and fight back against Hexagon as well. And Tommy is the guy who was really believed in this concept. Would actually end up fighting all of the other Rangers, and he'd be the threat that they had to overcome in the end.
Right.
And that would be where the series would end. They'd beat Tommy, he'd see the error of his ways, then they would disband Hexagon. Scattering the Power Rangers, all of them back to their individual places.
Right.
And sort of resetting the continuity with all the threads tied up. So that from then on they could go back to self-contained seasons. And basically start again.
Right.
Without sort of scrapping the history that came before.
Do you think that would work? Like, even if you've disbanded the organization of Power Rangers, there's still ostensibly all of those Power Rangers throughout the universe. It seems strange for them to, like, never show up.
Well, I guess that's why it's important that the Power Rangers lose their powers at the end of each series. I think it would be an acceptable solution. Like, you need to suspend your disbelief a bit, of course, but I think it'd be a solid way to sort of achieve that goal. So I can understand why a lot of fans were disappointed that this never came about.
Absolutely.
Because there's such a fan servicey idea. But I guess it's why the whole thing makes me a little uncomfortable.
Right.
I think it goes a little too far into being like, here's all the things you want.
Right.
And I can't exactly put up my finger on why that makes me uncomfortable.
Right. I mean, part of me does think, given that Power Rangers is obviously a children, I mean, it's not like a kids show, but it's like a young adult show.
Well, I would say like 6 to 12.
Something like that. Like, I wonder if there's this thing in like comics from the Gold and Silver Ages where you could reuse your stories every 3 years. Because after 3 or 4 years, all the kids had kind of aged up out of comics.
That was certainly the prevailing theory within the industry. Whether that's true or not,
as a kid, you'd read comics from like 9 to 12 maybe. And then at 13, you'd move on to something else. So the next year, although no kids have read those comics again. So I wonder, like, I'd imagine, obviously there's a large kind of adult contingent of Power Rangers fans. And I think you guys know that on account of we're speaking to you. But I wonder if how like kids would have taken a series that's so heavy on the references.
I don't think that would be so much of a problem.
Right.
Because kids kind of buy into that stuff without needing explanation.
That's true.
And I think the core of it, the core idea is actually quite strong. This idea of Power Rangers that are fighting because they disagree, rather than mind control. but they're willing to put aside their differences when they really
they don't disagree about like these guys are a threat and have to be stopped.
That's right.
They just disagree about methodology.
That's right. And I think as like Marvel's Civil War demonstrated, that is a really interesting dynamic for creating drama and conflict.
Sure.
So I think it would have succeeded had they have done it the way that this sort of plan describes.
Right.
Having said that, I'm incredibly dubious that it would have panned out that way. There's so many restrictions. Like getting all those cast members back would be incredibly expensive.
Budgetarily,
well, that's what I mean. Like, they talk about shooting in Angel Grove, and the benefit is that all of these different places look like LA.
Because they were all shot in LA.
Exactly. But that's still a lot of sets. Like, they talk about the Rangers being floated around in a helicopter. Like, I can't see.
Either you get a helicopter, and you can afford like one shot of it, or you have to fake a helicopter every time,
and it looks terrible. There's just a lot of different parts of it that I think that it wouldn't have come out as good as anyone would have wanted it to.
I mean, I guess that's the problem, isn't it? It's a great idea, and as a concept, I can go, yes, that would have been amazing. But it wouldn't have been 22 episodes of Breaking Bad.
That's right.
It would have been 22 episodes of Power Rangers. And
I think it's one of those things that we really want if they could do it the way we all want Power Rangers to be in our head.
Yes.
But it would never be that.
Not the way that Power Rangers often is.
Actually is. That's right. So they caught up with Amit recently to just ask him about whether he thinks the Hexagon concept is still viable. And he basically said that it was very much of its time, and at least that specific version of it isn't going to be relevant today. For a number of reasons.
It's been another decade since then.
That's one of the issues, is that at the time there was no more than a decade since the earliest version of Power Rangers. So you can get all the actors back. There'd still be people watching the show that might know who those people are. Whereas now it's 20 years.
It's almost too far gone.
It's so hard to get people back. And there's things like, for example, using something that evokes the Pentagon in the early 90s was a much less charged topic than it would be post-Iraq War, post a great number of things. And basically, it obviously relied heavily on the Sentai footage. Hurricane Ranger, I believe it was. That it was very useful
to have those two teams.
Exactly. And the show wouldn't follow that formula anymore.
Right.
And he basically said that, look, there may be room for a series that focuses more on the show's legacy. Which I guess Super Mega Force vaguely kind of does.
I mean, I have my issues with Super Mega Force. And its handling of kind of the legacy. But I think certainly it is it's a show that is celebrating kind of the 20 years of the show so far. But
something that's so specific and designed to tie up loose ends probably isn't appropriate. Just because at this point it's like, okay, no one explained where Scorpina went. It's been 20 years.
No one explained where Scorpina went 18 years ago.
That's right. We should just get over it. Everyone should get over it, basically. And it's no longer something that we should be concerned with wrapping up. Or
you could do that, but to do that and address 6 other plot holes from different seasons is probably overwhelming. If the next season decided to bring Scorpina back as a main bad guy, that might be cool. But you could handle it in a way that you were she fought some other Power Rangers once. You wouldn't necessarily be explaining it.
And you would have to know. You can just know that she's an evil person who, as you said, once fought some old Power Rangers. Super interesting concept. It's just one of those fascinating. I wonder what life would have been like in that universe where that occurred.
I mean, the thing that's particularly interesting to me about that is the Jason-Tommy dynamic. Because as we've discussed on the show, those two actors these days don't get along really in any way. I mean, it's sad, especially because it appears to be just that they didn't get along 15 years ago and haven't been able to sat down and step past it. rather than like a fundamental ideological difference or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like I wonder what that feud was like 10 years ago. Would working together for a season have pushed them past it?
Yeah.
Or would they not have been able to reconcile?
And I think too, like, they probably wouldn't have to shoot any scenes together, really.
Yeah.
So it could even, they could probably just
Work around it.
Yeah, it's all very interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting having Jason play the rebel and Tommy play the straight-laced.
Yes, it's a nice kind of counterpoint.
Yeah, inversion to how things were initially. Yeah. So yeah, it's all very fascinating. Part of me, unfortunately, suspects that we get more enjoyment out of it in a speculative sort of way than we ever would have.
I mean, it's like that thing, like Stephen King once said that if I tell you that there's a horrible monster behind the door, your brain will invent the most horrible monster you can imagine. As soon as I open it and it's like a 15-foot tall spider, you're going, well, at least it's not a 30-foot tall spider.
Yeah.
Like, the idea of it means you can fill in the gaps and make it
awesome.
Your ideal version of Power Rangers.
That's right.
Whereas, I mean, we've all seen Power Rangers, even when it's at its absolute best. It's still like a kid's show that has some dodgy CGI effects and like isn't necessarily great, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the show works despite those things.
Yeah.
Rather than because of them.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, even the best version of that show that they could have made as Power Rangers is probably not
going to live up to your expectations.
Yeah,
basically.
it's not going to be as good as that description is.
Yeah.
And you can imagine some guy in a suit having a problem with like Rebel Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Like, this might encourage kids to not trust policemen or like some sort of objection like that, and then all of a sudden, bam, you can't use the entire thing.
Yeah. I mean, look, I would love in my heart of hearts to have a Power Rangers show that teaches kids that you shouldn't necessarily trust authority, you should always question large organizations, and that you shouldn't blindly follow anything. But
even a head in a tube.
Yeah,
they do trust him just straight away, don't they?
They really do. Yeah, that happens.
I mean, if it weren't for the fact that we constantly see like the people on the moon talking about how evil they are, there would be room for like a revisionist narrative version where like Zordon is the bad guy, and like those monsters are just trying to have fun or something. Except the show is
or they're refugees from a destroyed galaxy and they just want to have somewhere they can go home.
The show is very clear about who's the good guy and who's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is probably for the best.
Yeah. So Hexagon, interesting concept. I suspect we're better served probably by one-off anniversaries like Forever Red, like Once a Ranger, like the Legacy War.
I'm kind of excited because it'll be 25 years in 5 years.
Yeah.
We'll be still doing this, hopefully. I mean, we definitely won't be done. So that'll be, 25 is a pretty big one.
That is a big one. I can't imagine what they'd do, though.
No. I mean, this idea of kind of getting all the Power Rangers back, even though they've only gotten back, like, a selection.
Yeah. And a weird selection. Like, 3 Lost Galaxy Rangers.
Do you want to talk about that briefly right now? Let's just
I can't remember the specific list off the top of my head.
It's TJ and Cassie from In Space are the earliest Rangers other than Tommy.
Yeah, and that's really weird to me, especially when as I said, you're getting 3 Rangers from Lost Galaxy.
Yep.
And then a handful of Rangers from, like, Samurai and stuff.
Yep.
There's, like, big, strange gaps.
Yep.
To me, it's like if you want to get someone from Lost Galaxy, you get one person.
Yep.
And then you get someone from Turbo.
Yeah.
And then you get someone from Ninja Storm.
Sure. I mean, my understanding is that the entire infighting them process was an absolute fiasco.
Yeah, I've heard.
There were emails sent out and offers to go on the show.
Yeah. So heavily classified, we're talking about for the Legend War. The Legend War episode of Super Megaforce.
Which will air sometime later this year, I think, or early next year.
That'll see a lot of returning Rangers.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they sent out offers to people and then retracted some offers. They didn't offer it to some people who have said man, if they'd asked me, I'd have been there like
In a heartbeat.
to put that costume on again.
Yeah.
What it seems to me like is they didn't put together the list of who'd be great.
Yeah.
And then like offer it to back up people when they said no.
Yeah.
They just kind of put their feelers out to everyone at once.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you don't want to risk offending someone.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got two rangers who are friends,
Yeah.
which is certainly possible, having like, if they work together on the show for a year or
And they're
more.
probably tour conventions together and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
you don't want to say like, oh, I got this invitation, did you get it? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
And then when he says no because he can't do it,
Yeah.
you send it to someone else and they go, well, why didn't you invite me at the start?
Yeah. It's a flawed process, but it also sounds like it was handled terribly.
Yeah, I mean, they never ever were going to have the budget to get everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just a reality of the show.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but I don't think everyone would have come back anyway.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you do justice to 20 teams of Power Rangers in 22 minutes?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that you need to get a team back every episode for the whole season to give them any chance of like...
And it's been interesting. They've sort of almost been trying that with Super Mega Force.
Yeah.
They've had episodes that are supposed to be tribute episodes to previous seasons. And then, like, they've got a guy from, is it Wild Force?
Yeah,
One of them?
but he's the only one. He's the only Ranger to return for the season who isn't in the...
I thought there was one more.
Oh, there might be one more.
I think there was one more that they did like
But it's
that.
like, those are... What a weird pair of choices.
Yeah. And then they've got David Frank, who's coming back, who's not just going to be in the...
Yeah, he's doing a couple of extra episodes as well.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, some strange choices and...
But again, I think this demonstrates that we should really appreciate these chances when we get them.
Yes.
But we should also understand that when they come, they're going to be executed in a very strange, somewhat unsatisfying manner.
Yep.
And that's always going to be the case.
I was going to ask if you could have any one Ranger return, who would it be? But I know the answer, and they've already done it.
Yes.
So...
It would absolutely be Johnny Young Bosch as Adam.
Yep.
And he was the only non-Disney representative in Once a Ranger.
Yep.
And he was great. Like,
I
so
haven't
great.
seen it, and I mean, look, I know it's a very long way off for us, but it's like, I'm very much looking forward to that.
You should, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's even a fraction as good as Forever Red.
Yeah.
And I think that episode has its problems.
Yeah.
But as a, like...
Fan servicing thing.
Yeah, as a fan, as 22 minutes of, hey, you remember how much you like Power Rangers?
Yeah.
Because that's, and I mean, let's talk about it now.
Yeah.
That's like the first episode of Power Rangers I saw when I stopped watching.
Yeah.
I bought this DVD called, like, The Best of Power Rangers or something, and it's got, I think it's got, like, a Green Ranger episode.
Yep.
It's got Countdown to Destruction.
Yep.
Which far and away is my favourite 2 episodes of the show ever. It's got, I think it's got, like, a weird Lost Galaxy episode.
Okay.
It might be the team up, but it might not be. I don't remember.
Those are really good episodes.
All those team ups are just,
Yeah.
nostalgically are just great.
But the Lost Galaxy one too, like, it was a big team up.
Is the Lost
episode.
Galaxy one the one that brings the pink Psycho Ranger back? Or is that a different one?
Yeah, that's involved in it.
Yeah.
So it brings back the Space Rangers. I think the Psycho, or at least the pink Psycho
No,
Rangers.
it brings back all the Psycho Rangers, I think.
Right.
And then the pink one is a later episode.
Yeah, but it also involves the death of a Power Ranger
Yeah.
for the first time ever. So
Yeah.
I can understand why that would be in a...
And I will say on record, I think the Psycho Rangers are some of the best enemies Power Rangers has ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, they're a great idea.
Like, it's a terrible name.
Oh,
but
sure.
They're a great idea, and the costumes are great as well.
Yeah.
So,
But we'll talk about that in about 6 years.
Yeah.
But so on this DVD also, so I'd seen all of those when they were airing.
Yeah.
And also is Forever Red.
yeah.
And so I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
And I watched all these other ones and I was like, man, I really do like this show.
Yeah.
Like, this is a show that I enjoyed as a kid and it's got nostalgic value for me.
Yeah.
And then I watched this 22-minute episode. And it's got all these Red Rangers who I've never seen and they go to the moon.
Yep.
And it's got, like, CG that looks like they spent some money on it.
Yep.
And it's got, like, the Astro Mega ship and an Alpha robot. And it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
it's like it's really the reason that I'm still into the show.
Yeah.
And
I think that sort of 2-minute sequence of all the Rangers morphing.
Yeah.
Is it like
it's on a shelf in my room.
Yeah.
And I'm trying so hard not to watch it because now that we've started watching the show in order, I want to stay in order.
Yeah.
But at some point I'm going to break and I'm going to get that out and I'm going to watch it again because I can't help it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I get that. That just goes to show as well that what we get as far as anniversary stuff goes and stuff that ties into previous seasons is good.
Yeah.
We love it. We probably didn't need a whole season of it at the expense of a fresh new season that would introduce new kids to the show.
Yeah.
Ultimately. I think like we shouldn't put our...
The show lives and dies on constant...
getting kids in.
It fundamentally lives and dies on kids buying toys, right? Like, that's literally the only reason it's still being made.
Yeah. And we can't put our desire for nostalgia ahead of a fresh batch of kids discovering this new thing for the first time with new people that they grew up with.
I mean, look, I do also think that, like, the idea of a legacy season that brings back a whole set of Power Rangers, like, you could sell, you know, these days you can get a toy of a whole bunch of Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Because they've brought those costumes back for Super Mega Force.
Yeah.
Because they've got these keys that can transform into any Ranger.
Yeah.
And so I think certainly there's, like, room for that, and it can be good for the show. But yeah, I mean, you know, in a couple of years we'll have a movie, and it might not be very good, and we'll probably be very upset about what it's done to the show.
Yeah.
But if it gets a whole bunch of 6-year-olds watching Power Rangers, that's more important fundamentally than us enjoying it.
Absolutely, I agree.
We've still got the show that we saw.
Yep.
Even if it turns out to not be great on a rewatch.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a nice note to end on, I think.
Yeah. Bumblebee.
Yeah.
So speaking of anniversaries,
yes.
On Wednesday, I haven't quite decided when we're going to drop this yet.
Yeah.
But if we drop it when I think we're going to drop it, the next episode you're going to hear from us is going to be our 1-year anniversary. You've heard us talk about it, so I don't want to go into too much detail.
Yep.
But we're getting all of the old Rangers back, hopefully.
I guess.
Our old Rangers, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, we're not getting, like, an actual old Ranger.
Yeah, I don't want you to freak out anymore.
No. Yeah, we're getting every Power Ranger back, somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be a really good time.
Hopefully.
A good celebration of what we've done so far, and a good way to reset and charge towards the future.
Yeah, so after that, we'll see you for episode 53.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast.
Absolutely.
Where can they find us?
www.rangerdangerpodcast.com is our website.
Yep.
Our Twitter handle is @RangerDcast. That's the letter D.
Can I interrupt for a sec?
Yes.
We have been having problems with our website. Thank you for the people who've let us know. Hopefully we've fixed those.
Okay.
Go on.
So Twitter @RangerDcast. That's the letter D. You can send us an email at rangerdangerpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep.
We're also on Facebook, YouTube, Stitcher, and iTunes.
Yes, we are.
And you can subscribe on all those things except for Facebook.
You can subscribe, you can like, you can follow, you can review, you can comment. Any of those things help us out a bundle.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of days.
See you guys.